Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to our latest ONC virtual lunch and learn discussion. My name is Vanessa Baca. I am the manager of the Office of Neighborhood Coordination, and I want to welcome our panelists. Maria, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Maria Padilla. I'm the New Mexico NeighborWoods coordinator anymore. I'm the director.
And
Rachel Hendricks, NeighborWoods assistant director.
Thanks, Maria and Kelly, for being part of this. I really appreciate it. Margaret?
I'm Margaret Keller. I'm with the McDuffie Twin Parks Neighborhood Association.
Thank you. And Karen?
I'm Karen Rivard, and I was neighborhood coordinator for our project for Oso Grande.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you all very much for being a part of our webinar, and thank you to our attendees for taking the time to be part of this as well. Just a couple of quick little announcements. I think the majority of the attendees have already attended these virtual trainings. What I do is I ask them to use the chat function to type in any questions that they might have, and we will address the questions at the very end of this session. So I think in interest of time, excuse me, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to have Maria and Kelly give an overview of New Mexico and NeighborWoods, and we'll go from there. Maria and
Rachel.
Rachel, I'm sorry. I keep.
Yeah, no, that's
sorry.
Okay. So I'm gonna, if I can just share the screen and
absolutely. There you go.
Screen share.
Okay, there we go. I shared it to this.
While you're loading it, can you give a quick, just like an answer, like how long has New Mexico been around?
So right here. So New Mexico was in 1990. It was founded by Sue Probart. So okay. We've been, for the better part of 30 years, we've been planting trees all over New Mexico. And you had asked how many trees have we planted in the neighborhood. And so as of now, we've planted 8,500 trees in 44 neighborhoods within the last 5 years.
Wow, that's so impressive. That's amazing.
Right. So Probart started it in 1990. And then in 2016, there was a collaboration with the state forestry, the city councilors, Ike Benton in particular, landscape architects, city planning, the Office of Neighborhood Coordination, local tree growers, and the Albuquerque Water Authority. And that's what founded the Albuquerque NeighborWoods program. So we went from New Mexico, and now we have the NeighborWoods program. And here it just says the same thing we've collaborated with. And what it does is it's a grant. And what it does is it provides 100 street trees, which are the large trees that we plant within 20 feet. And then we also give another 100 smaller trees, which are younger trees. And we give those, and we usually add fruit to those so people can plant them in the backyard or on the sides. So I'll just go through this quickly. In the intro phase, you know, we talk to the city councilors. We usually show them a heat map. They usually pick either the city councilors or now Parks and Rec, and they usually pick a neighborhood that is high on the heat index. That usually has some needs as far as, you know, the neighborhood, their financial status and stuff. So we get the councilor's approval and on which neighborhood they want to plant in. And then we contact the team leaders. And this is usually where the Office of Coordination comes in, is I usually contact Vanessa and say, hey, you know, we just got a planting for Oso Grande. Can you give me some emails and names and numbers of people I can contact in that neighborhood? And then she gets back to me with people, and then I call the neighborhood and I say, hey, you were just awarded this grant. And can we set, you know, up a kickoff meeting where I meet with you all and explain the process and what the trees are, the supplies. You know, I'm not going to go through this part because it's supplies that we usually go through. And when I talk to the neighborhood, I let them know that usually we need a group of 5 lead volunteers to help us drive the project. And that doesn't have to all be neighborhood associations. Usually we have very involved neighborhood volunteers, neighbors in the neighborhood, people, you know, husbands of somebody who might be in the neighborhood association. When we plant, we need as many volunteers as possible to plant. And we do use 1 ABQ for volunteers to sign up to plant with us then.
Maria, is there a minimum number of people that have to be involved to do this planting effort with you?
Well, we try for 5, but I got to tell you, sometimes we start with 7 and it drizzles down to 2 or 3. But you'll be surprised that, you know, sometimes we always want somebody, at least someone, at least 1 or 2 people minimum from the neighborhood, so that we can get out there and they can tell us about the neighborhood. They can show us where the need is. They can go out and canvas with us. They can go out and paper with us. And then we sometimes lean on some of our past, you know, stellar team leaders to come out and help us in those neighborhoods. If we can't get our 5, we've got people like Margaret and Karen that come out and help us. We need help finding homes for 40 to 100 of the trees. And usually that's, you know, we usually ask the counselor to send out a postcard, and that really it legitimizes the program. People see that the counselor actually is saying that, yes, this is for real. We usually go out in paper and we canvas, which means we knock on doors and we, you know, explain the program to people, show them the book and help them get trees. Then that following week, when we have the giveaway, we need people also from the neighborhood to come out and help us. One of the things is that the giveaway is just for people that live in that neighborhood. So it's always nice to have somebody there that knows the streets, knows this, because believe it or not, we get a lot of people who show up who want trees that aren't from the neighborhood. And it's been specifically paid for that neighborhood. So they're able to help us, you know, weed out the people that aren't necessarily from the neighborhood.
But the program is available to anybody who wants to be involved with it, correct? So even if somebody isn't in that particular neighborhood, there's nothing that would prevent them from contacting you on their own and saying, I'd like to have trees in my neighborhood.
They have to be from the neighborhood that the grant was awarded to.
I see. Okay.
So if they do want trees, like we had a call this morning from somebody on the west side who says, hey, I want to bring that program to our neighborhood. So our advice to him is get together with a few people and contact your city councilor and tell them you would like the NeighborWood grant. And then we, on our end, we will let the counselor know, hey, we just received some, you know, information that people in this neighborhood would like the grant. And so that sort of gives the city councilor, if they're trying to pick a neighborhood to fund to give the to, they know that there's already an entity in this neighborhood.
That's excellent. Good information to have. And just as a reminder to our attendees, and I think people know this, my office is under the city council as well. So that's an area that I can assist with as well. If somebody needs to make direct contact with their city councilor, that's part of what my office does. So please feel free to call us if you would like more information about getting your councilor to pay for, you know, a grant for trees in your neighborhood.
Perfect. What we try to do is we try to create a cluster of trees. We can plant within 20 feet from the street. And some sides are okay because sometimes you get a corner house that has streets on both sides. Usually try to plant a variety of street trees available. We usually try to plant some of the smaller to the larger shade trees. And the property owners must sign for the trees, and tree baits will be available. We'll go through that in a minute.
Okay. The trees do have to be planted on privately owned property. They don't get planted in city right of way or anything like that.
We can plant in the planting strip. That's part of the 20 feet from the street.
Okay.
But you have to sign that they will take ownership over those trees and water them. So then once we get a neighborhood and they've been trained on how to canvas and how to go out and get people to adopt the trees, that's when the real work starts, or the real fun. We get out there and they get to meet the neighborhood. And this is part of the NeighborWoods. Especially during COVID, a lot of our neighborhood leaders were able to go out there and find out which of their homeowners, their neighbors needed food, needed medical assistance, you know, which were struggling, which were excelling. So the homeowners are able to find out what the strengths and the needs are in their neighborhood. So that's all, it's always fun to see them meeting people, and we've had people in their neighborhood association go out and their numbers go up because people, the first thing they say is, wow, we didn't even know we had a neighborhood association.
Yep.
Let's explain this to you, and here's an you want to learn more about it. So that's
Yeah. I've had several neighborhood association folks come back and let our office know that it's been a really effective way of recruiting for new members in addition to getting volunteers for tree planting. So that's very beneficial.
yes. And then once they're all adopted, we get flags, we get a landscape architect to go out there, and we get the lines checked. We check for, gas, electric, phone, cable, and also for our excavator to make sure that, we're not going to hit any lines. So we put flags out there. So it's really funny because when we're at the tail end of getting all of our trees adopted, you'll notice all of these little white flags that say Tree New Mexico on them in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people even take a flag and put it in their yard. And then, I want a tree, and they already have. We're like, that needs to go back to as before. So people usually start seeing the flags and they know what's going on. It's sort of keeping up with the Jones. What are they doing? I want one.
Sure.
So it's really nice. And it brings people out to talk to people.
Yes.
Well, that neighbor over there, needs one. Well, here's a flyer. Maybe you can go talk to them. I'm going to do that. So they go over there and we get calls. Yeah, my neighbor came over and talked to me. And so, it's part of getting the whole neighborhood talking and,
Yeah. And that's another, kind of side benefit to it as well. I think during COVID, we were all so isolated. We had to stay in and, had to maintain social distancing. So that's, I think one of those unintended benefits that come from part of this program.
Yes.
And there was a question. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, we'll get to the chat questions at the end.
Oh, at the end.
The presentation done. But I think that question's probably going to get answered as part of Maria's presentation. So.
Okay.
So at that point, the coordinator is going to create a map, and this is what it looks like when we start mapping out the trees. These are all the streets, and these where all the trees are going to be planted. And this is something that the neighborhood association takes note of because they may say, oh, we don't have any trees here. Let's go and hit this area one more time. Or we have a lot of trees here. Oh, here, let's hit this area over here. So the coordinator of the planting will create these maps. They'll put them together. We'll give them to our guy, Tony, and he comes and he digs the holes after the lines have been marked. And we're getting ready to plant at this point. So delivery day, usually we ask the team for the neighborhood is, okay, we want your thinking caps on. We need you to think of a safe place that we can store the trees overnight, because they did get delivered on a Friday. And then we go and we take them to all the homes and we drop them off at all the holes on that Saturday. And so we've had people use their backyards. We've had community centers say they could. We've had plumbing companies say that they could, use their place to store the trees. I think this was one of the plumbing areas here. We've had all different types of places, secure places, say that we could host the trees overnight. And at that point, we mark them, we color them. These two have been there to help us do this. We put tape, I don't know if you can see the green tape, to say what tree is which so that we know where to put them.
So Maria, we can't actually see your screen.
Yeah, we can't.
No,
We're
we are
not-
just,
Oh,
no.
I thought we were sharing the screen.
I gave you the ability to share it, but I don't see, we're not seeing what your presentation is. So
Okay, where's this one? Okay. Let's see if it'll do it now. Can you see it now?
Ah,
yes,
well,
there we go.
Oh.
Okay, yay.
yay.
So I'll just quickly go through this. This talked about
Mhm.
what the collaboration, this about what the grant is. This is what I talked about when we said we need, from the different, what we need from the different neighborhoods.
Sure.
These are some specific that I talked about, the clustering of the trees. This is getting 811 call. This is out there, you know, canvassing with the team members. This is what the maps look like when we give them to our guy who plants. And so, and to our planting leaders. So all of these are trees that are being planted in this neighborhood. And the colors signify a different type of tree. So if we clicked on this, and anybody can go on treeandm.com, tree plotter, tree&m tree plotter, and you can sort of look up and you can see all the different neighborhoods and everywhere that we've planted.
Maria, I presume that the types of trees that you plant are drought tolerant, or
Yes.
they're designed to be they're designed to work with the environment here in New Mexico.
Yeah, so all the trees that we plant are on the climate ready list. They're all, which qualifies them for the tree bait. All the trees we plant, we're not allowed to plant anything that's high water use. We're not allowed to plant anything that's high allergenic, and we're not allowed to plant anything that's high root intrusive.
Okay.
And most of our trees we get from trees of Corrales, so they're already growing in this climate, so they're all climate ready.
Perfect.
The trees that we plant, there are a lot that we're not allowed to plant that people will say, I want a weeping willow. Well, we don't have enough water for that, you know, or I want a New Orleans, you know, but this, you know, so we have our list. And when we go out to talk to the neighborhood, our leaders are given a tree book with pictures and specifics about the trees and how big they'll get. And so when they're trained how to spot a tree, they use that tree book. So they're not going to go in a little 2x2 place and plant a Afghan pine, because they'll see that it's not going to fit there. Karen and both Margaret are great canvassers, and they know a bunch about the trees. We need overnight, when we're storing the trees overnight for the planting, like I said, there's a lot of places that have said yes. We've used backyards, we've used, you know, parking lots that are secured, we've used churches to store them, we've used community centers. So it is just a whole community effort to store the trees. Planting day in the morning, you know, this happens to be our president. So of our board. So planting days, the trees get delivered, and these are the size of trees we're planting. So they get delivered to the whole sites like this. So they're ready when our team leaders and our planters show up. The tree's already there, and so they know where to plant, you know, where to put the tree. We have team leaders volunteer online with 1ABQ. We also have a lot of like the banks will call us and say, okay, this month was Earth Month. We had so many volunteers we had to train people because there were just, well, Karen, you guys showed up.
Too many.
Yeah.
What a terrible problem to have, huh? Too many volunteers.
It was wonderful. So, and everybody just seemed to enjoy it. You know, who doesn't want to get their hands in the dirt, and who doesn't want to see a beautiful tree come up when you're done with it and how gorgeous it looks? And
yep,
we've had, you know, different kinds of groups come. We do give them a t-shirt, and we do have our team leaders who've been trained to plant trees. I mean, Karen is a team leader. Margaret, I believe, are you a team leader as well?
You're
muted, Margaret.
I don't do planting.
Okay, she does everything else. She'll
I do a lot of walking.
Yeah, she does. She'll canvas for us and pay for us. Karen has led a team since her neighborhood. She has led a team planting, and it's just amazing to see how involved all these groups get. Everybody comes, they know they're getting ready to work. They know they're going to get their hands in the dirt, and everybody just has a great time.
Yeah.
Our team leaders, we do hold a team meeting with the team leader. This is one we did in Rotary. That's the mayor. And, you know, we talk to them because each neighborhood has specifics we need to be careful of. When we planted in Nob Hill, there's a couple of those one-ways where the cars, you know, zoom by. You know, we need to be careful with that. We need to be careful with the tools. We've had some families show up with, you know, 2.5. They'll show up with their small child. You know, and we have to let them know, okay, you're going to have, you know, somebody young on your team. We have to be careful because we have sharp tools. But please, any of the two of you go ahead and chime in, or Rachel if I'm forgetting anything. So we meet with the team leaders prior. We're so grateful for all of our team leaders and our volunteers because we put 100 trees in the ground in one day. And we could no way, no how do this without all these people volunteering their time and their love and their, commitment to doing this. So, we are very appreciative, all of them. Planting day quality check after we're all done. First of all, we make sure the trees were planted. Believe it or not, sometimes we go around and there's a tree still sitting by a hole. That the trees are watered in, because we live in a high desert. We mud our trees in at Tree, New Mexico. So what we do is we fill the hole with water. We put the tree, we put dirt, we put water, we put dirt, we put water, we put dirt. The whole time we're planting that tree, we're mudding it in. And then when that mud solidifies, the tree is solidified in its spot. So we've had Kelly train all of us on how to do this. And so we're getting our team leaders and all of us, they're getting pretty good at planting trees. We've got, the last time I checked, we have like a 5% survivability with our trees. So that's
So
all.
that means that only 5% of the trees that you planted have not survived.
Yes.
That's
And
very
usually-
impressive.
Yeah. For New Mexico, yeah.
Mhm.
Checked in, all the tools are cleaned, and we return them to Woodward. Day after tree baits. So because everything is on the climate ready list, and because this qualifies people for a tree bait through the water authority. So they get a credit on their water bill for allowing us to plant the trees. So it usually is like $63 for one tree, $73 for another. And then fiscally, they can get up to $100 a year for whatever they do to their trees. So if they buy more mulch, if they buy another hose, if they put in a drip system, any of that stuff, they can go back and get another credit on their water bill for doing anything to help these trees last to our survivability. Then we prepare for the following week is the giveaway. Again, we have to find somebody a secure place so that we can, put the trees overnight, because those are usually delivered on Friday. And these are usually all the same places. We prune them. This time, though, if you look over here, we put little info sheets on them, because people are taking these to plant them where they want, and we're not mailing them the care information sheet with their tree bait. So we want to make sure that they still have a way to watch a video on how to plant these trees. They still know how to care for that specific species. And we also have started bringing Kelly and tree stewards to the giveaway, and they do training on the trees and how to plant them right then and there. And then we have the giveaway, the line forms. We check flyers to verify they're from the neighborhood, and volunteers help give the trees away. So it's that day's awfully fun. And then afterwards, this is just all stuff that the staff does. We make sure everybody's in MailChimp so that we can send them some our newsletter from here on out.
That's great. Maria, who is responsible for maintaining the trees? Obviously, it's the people in the neighborhood. Do you assign it to specific people? How does it work exactly?
Well, each homeowner who receives a tree signs an agreement with the city that they're going to care for those trees.
Okay, great.
Clause in there that says that if the tree dies in 5 years, they'll have to replace it. But we've never had to do that. The only time we thought we might need to is if it looked like clear neglect. And we had a neighborhood call us and say, these trees look like they're dying. And when they went to check on her, she had been in the hospital for 2 months.
Oh, poor thing. Okay.
Got permission from her, and they plugged in a hose and they took turns watering her trees.
Great.
At home we went to, and I got ready to knock on the door, and the lady said, this house has been abandoned for 2 months and I just moved in and I'll start watering them, Maria.
Great.
So, everybody keeps an eye out. The neighbors, part of the neighborhood association, they keep an eye out, and they'll email me every now and then and say, hey, can you go take a look at this tree? And we've got tree stewards, or Rachel, myself, or Luis, we'll go out and we'll look at the tree and sort of assess what's going on.
That's awesome. We have really great neighborhood associations in our city, that's for certain.
Yes, yeah, we do.
Margaret and Karen, How did you guys both get involved with Tree New Mexico? Obviously, it was, and probably in part through the application process, but what led you to want to stay on as tree stewards? Margaret, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Karen.
I was walking through the neighborhood with a friend, and he said, I think this is a volunteer position you need to do. And so I did. And it was then contacting our co-presidents of our neighborhood association. And we ended up with 5 people to start the walking and the canvassing and that sort of thing. But we first had our meetings with Luis and Maria. And it was, they trained us well. They got us prepared to go out and do something. And then the real work begins, because that's when you start walking door to door and meeting all of your neighbors, which to me is just the biggest plus.
Well, it's so beneficial because it can help in so many ways, not with just establishing connections and networking, but it's also a really good way to help safety in your neighborhood. It's a really good way to, like, on top of what you're doing, which is assessing the tree needs for your neighborhood. Just so many benefits to walking in your neighborhood and getting to know your neighbors.
And I think the neighborhood is walking more and more, and everybody now. It just is, it really has made a palpable difference within the neighborhood.
That's wonderful. Karen?
Well, my experience was in 2019, right before, the world changed. I was at a homeowners meeting, and there was a presentation by Tree New Mexico. And I thought, wow, that sounds just fantastic. So I volunteered, and actually I was the only one. But the Tree New Mexico people helped me do the canvassing. We mailed out the postcards, and we went to there are 435 homes. It's a patio home neighborhood, so there's a lot of houses. And
you got your cardio in, didn't you?
We did. And we went door to door wearing masks and hats. I mean, you wouldn't recognize any of us, in a lineup. And so we went door to door. The one source of frustration which we encountered was people don't always answer their doors, and I understand that. So the people we weren't able to talk to, we left flyers for them. But ironically, on planting day, there were a few people that said, well, I didn't know about this. I like the tree. It's like, you got a postcard, you got a flyer. But anyway, I have to tell you, this is the best organization. I have volunteered with lots of things, and this is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I mean, I can get teary talking about this because they're the best people on earth. And when you walk away from that tree that's sitting there, and that beautiful living thing that is probably going to outlive me, it's really very rewarding. And that's why I keep coming back.
It just keeps giving and giving and giving.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the book, The Giving Tree. Yes.
Yeah.
Would you say that, I mean, and I assume, like, volunteers, like you said, there's training available, somebody who doesn't necessarily have a green thumb. Me, for example, I killed a cactus one time. I'm not joking. So I don't know that I would be the best person to volunteer. Would you say that, yes, anybody could be a volunteer and they'll get the training they need?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. We've gotten a lot of training on the planting process, and one thing I can't bring myself to do is pruning. I did have a class on that, and it's like I can't even bear to cut anything on a tree. But the planting, yeah, it's you do get trained.
So Margaret and Karen, you two are a good team, because one of you can't plant and the other one can't prune. So you kind of complement one another.
We've been doing that for a long time on all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I have to agree with her that the training is so well organized, as is the process, so that anybody can be a volunteer, especially if you're a walker. That always is very helpful.
Yeah.
But and you always had, I think Karen will agree, we always had the support of Tree New Mexico, of Maria, of Luis. So if there was a problem, if there were a situation where we really felt somebody needed to step in, it was done immediately and professionally. and always seems to be so.
And during the planting, the support is wonderful because we run into things all the time. For example, you get to the house and you're ready to plant and there's no hose, you know, or there's no water. We've had to actually water with buckets. So you never know what you're going to find. Or one time the hose was frozen, you know, it was early in the spring, and but we have this wonderful support. We can call someone and they'll come and they'll bring us another hose, or they'll bring us whatever we need, you know, to get the job done.
That's wonderful.
Snacks and water.
Maria, what are some types, what are some examples of the types of trees that you do distribute to people?
Well, we do the desert willow.
Mhm.
We do the New Mexico privet. We do frontier elm. The spring snow crabapple, the white flowering one, is very popular. The pink fleur cherry is popular. The Ali elm is popular, and none of these are the what people call the Chinese elm, the Siberian elm, that our great governor brought back. But so none of those, because those are, considered, intrusive, because, they pop up there.
Yes. I have one in my backyard now that I'm cutting down this weekend. So
No.
Karen, do you want to come and help?
Actually, I'm on hiatus. I hurt my back, but
Oh, okay.
you know,
Well,
they
Yeah.
find other things for me to do. That
I'm
doesn't
sure.
involve
Well, I hope you
planting.
feel better soon. So
Thank
Yeah.
you.
The Raywood ash is one of the ones that we
Yeah.
planted a lot of this spring, which is, shade trees, which are really nice. The New Mexico privet, the New Mexico olive is one that we started this spring to do the 15-gallon one. And they're gorgeous and they're big, they're beautiful, and they're pollinators and they're so hardy. And we were surprised it really took off. A lot of people really do want pollinators. They have pollinator, gardens and stuff, and it's a perfect complementary to anybody that xeriscapes, not zero ladies, xeriscape. Yeah. During the giveaway, we give away fruit trees because everybody wants food. And they're able to plant those in the backyards. And Afghan pines, we also do.
that's impressive.
Yeah.
Do you give, and I assume when people are planting, particularly around their homes, you give them instructions on not planting them too close to the house just because of roots becoming invasive? That was something that happened to a friend of mine previously, not through your program, but she purchased a house and the tree was growing right next to the house and the roots started to come up underneath the house and cause some issues.
So we have to stay within 20 feet of the street.
Mhm.
So, we do that for a couple of reasons, is because the whole neighborhood needs to benefit from the shade from that tree.
Mhm.
So not within 20 feet of the street. One, it benefits shade for the whole neighborhood. Two, it brings neighbors out to water that tree. Hi neighbor, what did you get? I got this. And, pretty
Mhm.
people are walking and they're conversing. And so if we keep within 20 feet from the street, we're not planting anywhere near any of the homes. And we also have a landscape architect who checks the spot where we put the flag and to make sure that it's in the right area, that it's
Mhm.
going to work beautifully. And sometimes they'll say, that's not the right spot, or we can only fit one, or, switch that one with that one, let's put this shadier one over here and the smaller one over here. So, that sometimes happens too. Yeah.
Okay. So you have everything covered. This is very impressive.
It is impressive. As Karen said, I have been around a lot of organizations, and this one really has the process down and the backup.
Mhm.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, that's it's wonderful. And what I think is such a great thing about this program is it's doing so well. And we live in a desert state. And so, we are limited as to our water resources. And I love that you provide the education and the types of trees that are suitable for our climate instead of just
Mhm.
randomly planting any kind of a tree somewhere. I think that's even better. Are there other similar programs to this in other states that you're aware of, just out of curiosity?
There are a lot of urban forests is what they're called, and there are a lot of programs in a lot of different cities, and a lot of Seattle, Washington has one.
Mhm.
Denver,
Philly, New York.
Philly, New York, yeah,
Arizona.
yeah,
That's awesome.
a lot of places with a lot of water, so they have
Yeah,
they're able to plant.
sure, sure.
I
Yeah.
will say I haven't seen a program that quite does it like ours though, at the capacity that we are, like with 100 trees in a neighborhood on one day. Well, it seems like a lot of other programs are doing trees here and there, or 50
Small.
trees, maybe more like street, median trees. But as far as like going into private residences and planting 100 trees in one neighborhood, that's pretty unique to us.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so great. What a great
And-
program. Now,
And a
Maria,
lot of
if a neighborhood or even just an individual wanted to get to work with you, how would you suggest that they get started?
So if a neighborhood wanted to work with us, I would suggest they go to their city councilor and let them know that they want to be awarded the grant, but that they also let us know so that we can go to the city councilor from both sides.
Mhm.
Some of our funding comes from the Parks and Rec now. So if it's not something the city councilor is interested in, we might be able to go to Parks and Rec and say, hey, this is a neighborhood that really wants trees, and see if we can fund it through their program.
Okay.
Contacting us, contacting the city councilor. If they want to just come and volunteer with us, which we do get people all the time saying, hey, is there any way I'd like to volunteer and do more than just show up to plant? And we say, yeah, well, we always need people to help canvas. We always need people to help, clean buckets, clean tools, go out and, paper the neighborhood. So there's always stuff to do. We've had people come and just volunteer to do some of that stuff. We've had young students from high school come and volunteer to just input this stuff into our computer. That takes a lot of time and energy out of our time when we could be out working with the community.
Sure.
So we get volunteers who do that. That's always a plus as well. There's always something to do.
That's fantastic. Do any of I believe we had asked the question that had been typed into the chat earlier from Lucy Baca. Once trees are planted, who's responsible for maintenance of the planted trees? And I believe we addressed that, Lucy, but if you had any other questions, you want to type them into the chat, this is the chance now. What would you say is probably the biggest takeaway from participating in Tree New Mexico, aside from obviously the trees, but because listening to all of you, it seems like it's not just an opportunity to plant trees and help our environment, but it's definitely a beneficial opportunity to connect with not just your neighbors, but other people in your neighborhood that perhaps you've never met.
I think it's a great opportunity, one, for neighborhood associations to have a project. Too many of them keep running with just having meetings. And if you have a project, you just truly build the cohesiveness of the neighborhood association.
Yeah.
And it just, it really, really helps, as you said, with safety, with talking,
Yeah.
with the whole feel
And
of the
I think it can be really beneficial as well to have, like you said, a project where there's a set goal and a tangible goal at the end of it, and everybody's working toward that same goal.
And it's a finite time.
Mm-hmm.
That it was, but our neighborhood now, we were planted last September, and now they're watching everything bloom and bud out. And now the emails and texts are starting saying, this is so cool.
That's wonderful. Oh, how exciting to see like your literal handiwork blooming, literally.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
I received a red bud from my yard from Tree New Mexico, and it is absolutely gorgeous this year.
We saw
I
your
sent a
picture.
picture of it to Betta, one of the tree people, and I mean, it's just in its glory right now. It's been almost 3 years now since it was planted. So
Sounds beautiful.
yeah.
I want to see a picture of it.
Here, I'll take the computer outside.
Well, I think we are at the end. I think we asked the question that our participant had. If I don't see any other questions in the chat, Maria, is there anything else that you wanted to add or maybe let people know about?
No, just that I mean, this is a great job that we have on our end and that we appreciate all of our neighborhood, leaders. We appreciate the ones who stick around with us and, are able to talk to other neighborhoods and, sort of pitch in and help them, and all of our volunteers, and anybody can volunteer. You can go on to 1ABQ and it'll list all of our plantings. You can also go to treeandm.org. And that'll list all of our plantings, upcoming plantings and plantings we have, and it'll take you to the site to volunteer. So
I went ahead and I typed the website into the chat.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
for our attendees, pass this information on to your fellow neighbors. It's a really good way to try and get people to join the neighborhood association. And if people want more information, they can contact the ONC, and I can put them in contact with Maria. She and I are email buddies, so we talk quite frequently. Or they can directly visit the website and get information for themselves. So, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time. Margaret is in Maine, so thank you for taking time out of your vacation. I appreciate it.
Fine. It was fine.
Thanks again for everything. And Maria, if we can figure out a way to get a copy of that presentation over to me, I can make sure that our attendees get it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Karen, Margaret, thank you so much. Rachel, Maria, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Our attendees, thank you all.
Okay.
See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.